Japan as an example. Oh, this was pretty funny too. Remember, people tried to like make it seem like my statements about Japan was a indication that I do not take, you know, anti-white racism seriously, which is, yes, I am white and I did go to Japan. And yes, Japan is pretty xenophobic. They tried to clip me out of context on a joke as I am a white person. So to the average, to the normie, I'm sure when they watch me, when they talk about this, they go, what? That's a white dude making a joke. But on a subreddit where you want to be as uncharitable as possible, you can turn around and make this argument that like Hasan is an anti-white racist. I'm white, bro. I'm fucking white.
Since it's white people because white people have more privilege and power? Well, yeah, but like nobody would say that you're not being racist if you go to Japan and India, where Indian people and Japanese people have all the power, and then you're racist.
In a lot of these places, by the way, they still do horrific, as a consequence of colonial culture. Consequence of like colonialism. India is a great example of this. And, you know, imperial powers interacting and subjugating these countries, Japan. Their colorism. Like if you, India, it's a great example. India is a great example. In India, they have infinitely more racist ass fucking ads, like skin whitening ads and shit. System. How does a constitution stir shit between you guys? They clip you both to drive their thirst for drama. I know, I understand, which is why I always have the position, the secondary position, which is like, why you have to be mad? Because I think every single person deep down inside that is like on the content creation side that talks about this issue, all the way from XQC to Asmongold to whoever, kind of understands that, like, you know, it's not as severe. Everyone ultimately recognizes that there is a difference. There is a varying degree of discrimination. Okay? The people that are like taking this incredibly seriously and not finding it to be like productive discourse, but instead like white people are under attack, they're going to be gunned down in the streets and be sold into white slavery. Okay? Those people are fucking freaks.
And Indians or Japanese tell you to get the fuck out. You're racist. Everybody would agree that's racist. So if it's built off of a structure of power, then logically you would be able to be racist against people in other countries if they're the majority population. But you can't because it's ridiculous. Again, the only real reason why people want to be able to...
I wonder which country maintained almost complete control over India, or which country wrote the Constitution of Japan, for example. Like, even in the examples that he's giving, when you look at the historical impact, when you look at like the recent and also not so recent history and the development of nation states in these countries, Western influence that is white ethnocentric is so prominent that it's impossible to avoid. And that's precisely why, even in those countries, when they have like xenophobic sentiments, for example, towards white people, and I wouldn't say that they do in India, but certainly in Japan, Japan is pretty xenophobic. Japan was also colonial power themselves, yes, also true. Of xenophobic discrimination. Xenophobic discrimination is still, it still lacks the oomph. The United States of America is the global hegemonic superpower. And we say goes.
Is because they're racist. The people that want to use racial slurs with the intended effect of them being used against that race of people in a degrading way, just assume the reason why they want to do that is because they're racist.
Chinese very nicely, for example. No, they did not. Have to do genocide to prevent genocide happening to white people is used as common excuse by fascism. The Nazis claimed they were doing self-defense against the German race. I know. That's why it's very insidious and very scary when people start talking about like defending the white race. without realizing it, a lot of people lend themselves to and take on the battle with those who claim that white genocide is occurring. And you have to understand, one question you should always ask, one question I have for Asmongold is this, and everyone else, is this: how is white genocide happening? Why? Once you start identifying that, once you start thinking about that, you start to recognize, oh, it's happening for miscegenation, which is now legal, no matter how much people try to, chirp against that too. Because there is no more genetic purity in the white genes. Asmon believes any of these things? No, of course not. That's why I'm saying that no, singularly critiquing individual actions, not systemic ones. Exactly. That's precisely why I'm stating what I'm stating, which is that when you start defending white identitarian concepts, you very quickly, without recognizing, because you're refusing to recognize that like whiteness is power, okay? In the way that it is defined, it's an in-group that has the power. So once you start defending that in-group that has the power as something that needs to be defended, you have to recognize that, like, how do you do that defense? How do you, in defending the white race, who do you consider to be white? Gold would be like, yeah, white replacement is real, or, white genocide is real, and that we have to defend it by stopping miscegenation. You know what I mean? Works. Critiques of singular actors is bad in order to dismiss the arguments against what you're saying effectively. Because, like I've said time and time again, the fundamentals that that argument lands on, the fundamentals that that argument starts on are false. It's a false premise that I will not take on as a genuine, real concept. Do you not get good to constantly shit on white people or whatever the fuck? I'm simply stating that I refuse to acknowledge that anti-white racism is a real thing. Because in order to acknowledge that it's a real thing, you have to acknowledge that there is a concept of white race, which comes from your genetic purity, and it comes from your lineage, not from skin color, by the way, because those who are like the true whites will always be able to shut off whiteness, not on the basis of your skin color, like myself, right? But on factors like, oh, you're Turkish, your name is Hasan, you're no longer white. How dare you engage in anti-white racism? You yourself are not a white person. Whiteness as a concept, given what whiteness is, power is a socio-political term that implies you have it, okay? Not everyone sees it that way. Well, what I say is true, and not everyone sees it that way could be applied to a multitude of things I advocate for, but I don't stop advocating for those things because I believe them, and my entire goal here is to try to get people to engage with me charitably and a perspective on what I'm trying to say. Acknowledge it. Why talk about it? Because I'm a political commentator, and this is a incredibly political subject, especially in America. When we historic genocide, let's look at the Holocaust, for example. The Holocaust did not happen on the virtue of Jewish people not having sex. It happened because people put Jewish people in concentration camps. That he said the Holocaust didn't happen. Okay, guys, come on, be serious, please. You guys, half of you guys are behaving in the worst way. This is a very serious conversation that we're having. Why do you lend credence to hate watchers by behaving like LARPing as hate watchers? for 15 minutes at a time is so tiring, though, like yesterday. It might come across as tiring, but I think it's very important to address. Absolutely do not see themselves as a group. They have a kind of terminally corrupting individualistic view, which is why class unifying political movements are so fucking hard to get moving here. That's why it seems to miss the critiques of this kind of racist language, because the argument isn't that whites deserve protection, but all racism is condemnable. Yes. But racism as an individual action is nothing more than mean bullying. Racism, on the other hand, has systemic power associated with it. If, for example, reparations were to happen, okay, and the racial wounds were truly healed in this country, and I don't mean by like affirmative action or whatever the fuck, a Band-Aid solution that is feckless and you know, liberal nonsense, but true material restitution occurred. Okay? And centuries of racial wrongs were corrected. At that point, and that's like such an unimaginable scenario that it's hard to even like create it in your mind, I don't think people would care as much about the N-word. About the Holocaust? No, I didn't. The Holocaust happened in the... Oh, God, I got to stop fucking pausing. Okay. Nazis threw Jewish people into concentration camps and systematically murdered them. They robbed them of their rights. They dehumanized them, okay, and robbed them of their rights in an interest to defend Volkish Germans, okay? And the Volk was white. That's what whiteness was, okay? That's a real substitute for white in that situation. They said Volkish, but that was white, okay? And queer people and disabled people too, but for the sake of this argument, I'm using a reductive, a reductive description. Okay, the Holocaust didn't happen on the virtue of Jewish people not being able to have consensual sex with, non-Jewish people. That's not how that happened. Genocide, when you talk about white genocide, because white genocide happens on the basis of white people, or whoever is considered white, which is a political term, having sex with non-white people, whoever is not considered to be a part of the group of non-whites. Okay? The reason why I talk about this regularly, white people aren't real, ? Loan forgiveness, reparations is a non-starter. True. Existence of interracial couples? Yes. Yes, it is. Because in blackness in the United States of America are concepts that were created around power. Blackness, on the other hand, was utilized to dehumanize African slaves that were brought into this country. And it was protected with some rules that white people created, like the one drop rule, which is precisely why, like I said, no one looks at Barack Obama and says, that's a white guy. Okay? Shows are woke when they have non-white leads. Yeah.